So you just got a new guitar and you need to transition from playing a 6-string to playing a 7-string, but now all the riffs that you've played for years and years feel totally alien, and you're like, how do I get around this thing? It sounds cool, but it feels so uncomfortable to play and to think about, and where are the notes and all that. Today we're going to talk about some exercises, some mental things that you can do to quickly and easily transition from playing a 6-string guitar to playing a 7-string guitar. But before I give you all the exercises and tips in this video, it's absolutely crucial that you're familiar with the upstroke and downstroke escape motions. I covered them in my video, USX and DSX daily warmups, a long time ago. And it's very, very, very important that you understand exactly what you're doing with the motions before you go through this exercise on this guitar. You should watch that video and apply those exercises. I've been practicing that exercise for 2 years before I got my 7-string guitar and started applying what I'm going to show you today. Things that are going to help you with speed, help you with endurance, but you can't go and play fast if the basic motions are not built up in a foundational way first. So please go watch that before you watch this video. Now, if you're already familiar with the upstroke escape and the downstroke escape, it's going to be a great video for you to watch. But before we get into all of the technical exercise stuff, I know with my videos I've always got a, but before you do this kind of thing. But it's really important, not just how we play the guitar, but how we think about the guitar. And as you're transitioning to a 7-string, there's just 2 notes that I want you to memorize, and that is C sharp and D sharp. And that's because when you think about either an E major scale or a B major scale, you're gonna have, this note is gonna lead right there. Or if you've got, kind of a whole step thing. You can just memorize that D is on the dot. You just need to know a couple of the notes down here so that when you're going and playing on this string, you're not having to think so much about, oh, where's C sharp or C, or where's D, or where's, E or B. Just memorize those things. Memorize, pick whatever you want. I like C and D sharp to memorize. Now, the next thing that we need to do to prepare mentally to switch to a 7-string guitar is think about how the E string is no longer the lowest string on the guitar. Because you used to just be able to, grab your pick and, oh, there's an E major chord, because I can just, wherever I strum, the first string that my pick is gonna land on is gonna be the E string. Well, now it's the B string. Which sounds really great. So I want you to think about, as you're walking around, as you're driving your car, just when you're thinking about guitar, think about, okay, I can't just throw my pick at the strings anymore. I have to think about the E string being a string that I play and handle with precision. And the last little quick mental tip that I have for you when it comes to transitioning from a 6-string to a 7-string guitar is to play all of the warm-ups and exercises that you played on your 6-string guitar on your 7-string guitar. Warm up on your 7-string guitar. Even if your practice session or your playing session is going to have you primarily on a 6-string guitar, maybe for a particular solo that's got a lot of sweeps or whatever, and this is going to be something that helps you get used to the wider neck and the extra string. So with all that out of the way, now let's talk about this exercise that I developed that's going to help you with your string crossings, with familiarity of where the notes are, and with your speed and your endurance. And for this part, I'm just going to stand up and give you a close-up on the guitar the whole time. By the way, if you like these kinds of videos where we go really in-depth about this kind of guitar stuff, it's stuff I'm sharing from all of the lessons that I've done with some of the top players in the world, like Stephen Forte and Rusty Cooley. I also worked with a guy named Alex Campbell, who played with Trans-Siberian Orchestra for a long time, and a great friend, Alec Darson, who recorded with Jordan Rudess. These are the people who I'm getting these tips from, and we're developing these strategies together, and now I get to bring them to you guys. So if you like this kind of stuff, I'd really appreciate if you went and hit the subscribe button, lets me know you like the video, and all that. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into the exercise. So the challenge that we have when we're gonna go and play a 7-string guitar is that our primary picking motion should be coming from our hand moving just side to side, not with rotation, but just with side to side. It's okay if there's a little tiny bit of rotation, but your main motion should just come from this motion. And what happens is, as my, the bone of my finger is kind of matched with this point on the bridge, or maybe a little further back if you like playing in this area that doesn't move as much, is when I try to reach from the lowest string and to the highest string, you can see that my wrist is already flexed all the way to the side. And so I don't have a lot of control over this movement. You can sometimes kind of compensate with the thumb, but not really. And we need to teach our hand not to just, do this and to stretch straight at the top end of where the strings are. We need to teach our hand to move as a unit like this so that we can retain that motion. And that's what this exercise does. It's one of the things this exercise does. So there's a couple of really important rules that you need to keep in mind when you're doing this exercise. And the first one is that you can never ever stop on this exercise, because if you're playing part of this and oh, hold on, let me stop, is what your hand is going to do is it's going to go, oh, I need to move. And then you're just going to lift and move your hand, and you're going to restart the exercise, from playing down here to playing here. And that's not what you want. You want to make sure that you are training your hand to move fluidly up and down the bridge and the strings like that. The second thing that you need to watch out for is that you're not gripping the pick too hard. As you're playing longer, there can be some tension that arises on these top muscles of the hand. It's actually a lot of fibers that kind of run almost across the hand like this. And you'll see when I grip the pick really hard that almost my pinky kind of comes up and in. Maybe there's some extra activation, that you might feel kind of on the inside of your wrist, and maybe up here. If you're getting any of those kinds of things, go through this exercise and just focus on just being relaxed. The speed is not the most important thing. The first thing that we want to do with this exercise is train in the movement. So this is an evolution from the older USX DSX Warmup, because we are going deeper with the movement. And when you first start doing this exercise, I want you to do it with a metronome. When I first got my 7-string, I started at like maybe 70 BPM, but again, I've also been training these for 2 years before making this video for you. So you might have to start at 60 or whatever. You just want to make sure that you're not getting, a lot of extra bumps and things. I can't even, replicate the bumps for you because I've just worked so hard to train them out. And then when you go through this exercise, you're going to do it, like I said, with the metronome first, and then you're going to go through it without the metronome, and you're just going to focus on the maximum speed that you can. And as I go through the demos here in the video, you're going to see me demonstrating it without a metronome, and that's number one, to make the video a little bit shorter, but number two, to demonstrate to you the speed you can get up to with these, even at kind of a warm-up thing. I haven't done necessarily a full warm-up today. So now the notes for this exercise are, it's not really about the notes, it's really just about the pattern. And the pattern is just wherever you are across 4 frets, 1, 3, 4, and then you're going to play the next notes alternating on the next string. So. And then after we get to that tritone, we're going to play up and then repeat the pattern on the next string. And again, as you cross the G to the B string, the notes are not really what's important here. And the reason that we're doing all this is not because we're doing a super ultra finger control exercise. That is part of what this does, but it only does it as an incidental thing. It doesn't do it because that's the point of this exercise. The reason that we're doing that is because it extends the length of this exercise, because we could just play and we could get the same outcome of training our hand across, but then we don't get in on the endurance aspect. So that's what that's for. Now, what's really important about this exercise is what we're doing with the right hand. So with the right hand, when we play this exercise, we're going to start with all alternate picking always on this exercise. We're going to start with a downstroke on the lowest string. And that top note is going to be an upstroke that's going to prepare us to cross back to the other string. So we're going to go through the whole exercise like that. if you watched my wrist really closely as we moved through there, there was a specific point when I moved from maybe about the G and the D string to where I had to shift my hand from kind of being in this area off the bridge to moving up onto the bridge so that I could cover the last of those strings. And that's a really important transition point you're gonna need to figure out for yourself. Now that we've done it downstroke, now we need to start upstroke. And this is extremely important because you're gonna get to the point where you're gonna find that, oh, I don't need to start everything downstroke. It actually feels more comfortable to start with an upstroke on this. Or, maybe you run into a situation where you get off and you're playing, you're playing live and you've got the adrenaline going and you're like, wow, I can't do this. But if you train these motions in, I'm telling you that this stuff is gonna become automatic. This is exactly how you do it. So now we're gonna do the whole exercise starting on an upstroke. So really slowly, that's gonna look like this. So here's the whole exercise. I'm going to back up just a little bit so you can see, give you a little bit of a different angle. So there's different things you can focus on as you play, such as keeping your hand relaxed or, making sure that there's absolutely no bumps ever. Or you can focus on just pure speed. You can go through this multiple times. Now, the next part of this is that we want to reverse all of this because in my original USX and DSX Warmups video, I realized that I had a major gap because I was only playing the exercises one way. So I was training one thing, but not another. So here's how that pattern and this second half of the exercise goes. So we're going to start on the upstroke, just like in the other video. So now let's play through the whole exercise. Now that we've gone through it starting on an upstroke, we're going to go through it starting on a downstroke. So this is covering, of course, you might have figured it out by now, both the inside and the outside picking. Very important. And I actually love doing this exercise starting on downstroke. And one of the things I've noticed as I get this exercise up to speed is that it actually has naturally come about that there's a very different movement that I use when doing the string crossings. And that is just this kind of pull movement. Again, my whole arm isn't moving up and down. You're just seeing one of my muscles engage as I rotate my wrist. And wrist rotation, as we're doing a string crossing, is completely fine. But you're going to see a lot of that as I go through this on my next run here. So I'll give you a different angle. We'll go on this angle. So starting on the downstroke. And one of the things that I also noticed is that when I very first started doing this exercise is when I would come back up, I would frequently bump the string crossing between there. So that's something that if you're running into that when you're first starting, that's completely okay. Play through it and then just focus on it as you're doing the exercise. And I promise, because I've done it, I've gone through it, that will go away in time. And that comes from the pick not crossing over the string quite enough. And I'm exaggerating the movement here. You don't have to move your fingers like that. But you need to make sure that you're clearing that extra string to get the upstroke when you come back down. So here's a run of the exercise. this video, we covered a couple of mental strategies that you can use to transition from a 6-string guitar to a 7-string guitar. The first one being, where are the notes? And to be thinking about those notes. The second one was to, as you're walking around, as you're driving your car and all that, be mentally thinking about the E string is no longer the lowest string. You can't just strum and get the E string, and that the E string is a string that now you have to approach with precision and intention. And the last one was to play all of your 6-string warm-ups on your 7-string guitar, and then of course we went over the escape picking exercise. So if this helped you, again, I'd love if you'd hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.